Great. So we sent some information around regarding tools. I don't know who had the chance to actually install the tool. It's called Protégé. And because I have some slides showing the metadata, but IRDS is best shown in such a ontology tool. And this is an open source tool, which is not very convenient. And there are more professional tools like Pool Party, or I've used by Empolus, who can actually show ontologies much better than this one. But this is free of charge and downloaded by everybody. And maybe some of you got the chance to download the tool and also merge the three RDFS files. So IRDS is, if you go to the IRDS main page, you need to register to actually download the stuff, but IRDS is split up into three. I have to log in, sorry. Let's see whether this works. Yes, is delivered as three files, the vocabulary. We have a core vocabulary, we have a machinery vocabulary, and a software vocabulary. This is called domains, and in the core you have the central concepts, and these are machinery industry specific and software industry specific concepts and terms. We do that so that people only need to load the ontology parts that they actually need. You can also, you just need to register, and then you can download this, and then you can also view this specification, which is completely in English and which explains how to use IRDS, and has a lot of examples, also code samples of how actually content tagged with metadata looks like. So this is from the RDF file, which is in the IRDS package, and you can see how actually the metadata is used in practice. So if you want to use IRDS, refer to the specification. So those of you who have downloaded the vocabulary, you're free to switch to Protégé. In between, I will do so as well to show some stuff. If that's too fast for you, please let me know. I will now switch between the vocabulary and my slides. Okay, so IRDS is delivered as three RDFS files. RDFS is a format or a language to describe ontologies, and it's maintained by the W3C consortium, and it's just one way of describing ontologies. It's an abstract model, meaning that you need to serialize it or write it down in a specific format. And this can, for example, be XML. And this is what we use because most in the technical communication world know XML. So that is why when you look at IRDS and the code samples, just a second. This is all IRDS notation, and you should, as you work with structured documentation, you should be able to read that easily. Okay, let's come back to our classes, the classes of Felix Catus and Felix, which is an object. In the ontology, in the IRDS ontology, you find a lot of classes and objects. The classes are these groups, and in Protégé they have those yellow dots here. These are the concepts that we have in IRDS organized into groups. For instance, you have a group for topic types, and concept is a subclass of topic type. Within the classes, you have objects, like Felix is my cat object. And this is the actual label that you would use in your authoring system as metadata item. So if you have a task topic, you would assign the metadata item generic task to the topic in order to classify the topic as a task. And each of the classes and each of the objects here has an address, a unique identifier, which is called in IRI in ontologies. And you can see they all refer to TCOM. So visualizing that this is a public vocabulary. Let's have a look at the model. The model is, I think we have 22 main classes, so it's not the smallest one, but it's actually well structured, and you should know most types of metadata from your daily work. And I will go through the main classes bit by bit, and we will also have 2 exercises so that you can see how to actually use this metadata. Okay, the central, oh yeah, sorry, I forgot. So you have those classes, the metadata classes, and we have an IRDS relation concept. I talked about triples before, that you have like Felix as a cat, or a topic describes a specific component. Those relations need to be typed as well, so they need to have classes as well. And this is what IRDS defines in the relation concept, and you have specific relation classes for all the relations that you can use in the ontology. For instance, that a topic relates to a phase of the product lifecycle. So we have a standardized vocabulary, we have metadata classes, subclasses, and objects, and standardized relations. The central class of IRDS is the information unit. An information unit is an object where you assign metadata to. And you can assign IRDS metadata to topics, to fragments, to documents, or packages, complete IRDS deliveries. And that means that you can use IRDS metadata on different granularities of content. Because IRDS comes from the domain of technical communication, most of the metadata that we have actually refer to information unit, because we are talking about content. And that's why we have metadata that refers to content, namely to topics, fragments, or documents. So this is our central class. There are a few exceptions to this rule, but I will talk about that later. Okay, let's start with the first main class, the information type. I will switch to my ontology again. And this is the class for the information type. And the information type contains metadata classes for topic types, information subjects, and document types. The topic type should be very familiar to you. If you work with Ditto, for example, you will see learning, reference, task, and troubleshooting. And no surprises here. We do have something like form if you have like a form with predefined fields. But this is all very familiar to us. So the topic type describes which type of information we have, and is can be assigned to topics. Then we have document types. A topic may belong to one or more documents, and you find a whole list of documents here: standard document types, operating instructions, or a bill of material, or a safety instructions or repair instructions. So the question is, why do we need document types when we talk about smart content, intelligent information? We want to get rid of the documents, right? The point is that a lot of people still have documents, and they may be legally bound to, or legally obliged to, actually deliver a specific type of documents in their content delivery. For example, they need to have a CE declaration of conformity. And metadata describing documents is still useful. Also in content delivery portals, you still find a lot of table of contents where people can actually browse through content based on document structures. So that's why we have a lot of document types here. And last but not least, the information subject. This is these metadata classes contain information. What is the content talking about? What's about? For instance, is that safety-related information? Is that a warning message? You find the different levels of warning that you probably know very well when you write machinery documentation. But also things like, I'm looking for a flow diagram or a circuit diagram. Please show me this diagram. So the information, the metadata in information type enables you later on in the delivery in the portal, for instance, to very specifically search for specific information. A service technician could, for example, filter by its component or product variant and say, okay, and now show me all circuit diagrams that is available for this component or this product. If your content is tagged correctly, this kind of information will be very easy to find and can be shown very quickly to the service technician. On the slides, you will also see the relations that are used to actually assign this kind of metadata to your content, but I will not list them every time. Okay, time for some action. This is, and I hope you can all see that, this is a topic from the IRDS sample content. It describes a fan, so something you can use to make fresher air. And this topic explains how to mount the rotor of the fan. Very usual structure. You have a warning message here and then some step-by-step instruction. If you think of the information types, which type information types would you assign? I will paste the link into the chat. And I will go back to the vocabulary. No, I will actually show the slide, I think. So on this, in this quiz, you will find each option is a combination of 3 metadata. And please try to find the right combination. I will show you the slide again. You can see the quiz for yourself on your screen. But which information types would you assign to this topic? So I will keep my mouth shut for 2 minutes and then you can start working. If there's any question about the exercise, please let me know. I will switch back to the quiz and see if we got some answers. "24, that's nice. I have to, then this is the green one, is the third one, I think. Just a sec. task, warning message, and assembly instructions. Let's have a look. Task, warning message, and assembly instructions. Yes, almost no wrong answers. Yeah, it's not a reference topic because it has a task structure here with the steps, and that's why I opted for task here. Thank you for your answers. Completely correct, and was probably not too hard. But you could also actually say that this topic could also be suitable for the operating instructions, and you can do that in IRDS. You have this metadata item can be used several times on one topic. So one topic can be contained or suitable for different document types. Thank you for the participation. If you organize information in this way in a semantic network, this is how it would look like in an application. This is from Emplis Content Express. I just wanted to show you so that you get a more visual image of the network of information that actually is the result of using this metadata. And databases like Pool Party and Content Express are actually able to visualize this as a network. So here we have our topic, mounting the rotor, which is a topic, and of type task, and which is applicable for specific document types.
I think, Ulrike, we are still seeing your, now it's working, yes.
Do you have a lag? The others as well?
Yes, for me at least.
Okay. So that was information type, one of the most important classes. The second most important, in my opinion, is the product metadata. Holger, do you see the slide with the product metadata?
Yes, we see the product metadata now.
Yes.
Just a second, I think I have to sneeze. I need 5 seconds. Okay, let me switch back to my ontology. You can find the product metadata in the documentation metadata as a subclass. Product metadata is very important because our technical documentation usually refers to some kind of product, hardware, software, service, whatever, you name it. So we need to be able to use metadata not only for variant management, but also in portals, for instance, so that people can actually filter by their product or find information about their product. They don't want to have text that describes 3 variants and then select the right paragraph to read. Those times are over. So IRDS decided to put in product metadata in the vocabulary. And I will start with the class that is very well filled, which is the product lifecycle phase. If you know, if you work in the machinery industry, your documentation probably follows the standard structure of, I don't know, transport, assembly, putting to use, operation, maintenance, repair, and disposal. And this is also reflected here. You can tag content with standard metadata, for example, for use, for maintenance, for diagnostic, for cleaning, and different lifecycle phases. And IRDS decided to put some standard objects here, some objects representing product lifecycle phases, and they are organized in 4 parent classes. The other 3 classes in the product metadata are not filled. And the reason for that is that we don't know which product variants you have in your company. We don't know which components belong to your products. And we do not know which functions and properties your products have. But IRDS provides extension points where you can actually plug in your custom classes, subclasses, and objects. So if you have a product ontology or classification according to E-class, for example, you can connect it to the metadata that is provided in iiRDS. iiRDS metadata describes the type of content and has a connection to the product taxonomy, and this way you can say, okay, this is topic refers to this product property, which is then classified according to E-class. So we have product lifecycle phase, which is very well equipped in the 3 docking points for product variants. For components, you can also build up a component tree in iiRDS if you want to, because components may have has component relations. So you can have a parent component which consists of 2 subcomponents, and so on. So you can actually build a bill of material in iiRDS if you don't do it somewhere else. And then we have the product lifecycle phase and the product features. For example, this I don't know, drilling or whatever your product does, measuring, stuff like that would be in product feature. In product properties would be product functions. Product properties would be something like dimensions, weight, voltage, things like that. Okay. Product metadata. Any questions about this? Let's have a look at the functional metadata in iiRDS. The functional metadata is called functional because these metadata classes support some extended functions that you can provide in your applications. And there are 5 main classes. Let's start with qualification. Your documentation may be written for a different target audience, for example, for service technicians or for operators or for programmers or for users, administrators, people like that. Again, this is very company specific. So iiRDS provides the 2 extension points, role and skill level. In the role, you would create company specific objects like service technician or administrator. And in skill level, you can store information about the level of skill like advanced or basic user or I don't know, key user, things like that. If you extend iiRDS in this way, you need to make sure that you don't use an iiRDS address up here, but that you use your own company URL as the source for this extended metadata. And qualification is useful if you want to filter in the portal according to the target audience. For example, if you want to show if you want to hide service technician content from normal operators, if you and usually the portals know their users because in most of the or in many portals you have to log on before you actually can use the content. So if you store the role with the authentication, you're able to filter content in the portal right from the start for this specific user. So this is one means of actually do personalization of content delivery. And then we have more pragmatic metadata, for example, supply and planning time, which both come from the machinery industry or machinery domain. And this metadata classes enable you to store metadata about maintenance intervals, for example, or the working time that may be associated with specific tasks in your documentation that are described in your documentation. And the function that can be combined with that is, for instance, if you have reached a specific maintenance level and a service technician has to travel to the say, I don't know, wind turbine or the plant, they can actually collect the information about the required maintenance before they actually start off their tour. And if you have metadata about working time or downtime, an application can use this metadata to assemble the total working time. So You say, okay, this is the maintenance you need to do. These are the 4 instructions that I can give you. And by the way, those instructions mean you have a working time of 3 hours and the plant will be down for 4 hours. So this is what you need to prepare. The same applies for the supply metadata, which enables you to store metadata about tools or spare parts or any supplies that you may need with specific tasks or any other descriptions in your technical documentation. Event, again, is empty because this is where you would create subclasses or objects for your diagnosis codes or error codes that are shown by a machine and that may be connected to specific troubleshooting information. And this is the extension point for that. An action is a class that enables you to define metadata that describe very commonly repeated actions by the user. For instance, saying cleaning a specific component or switching on, switching off a device, powering down an application, things like that. And we put it here because it doesn't belong into the product lifecycle phase, because common actions may be required in different product lifecycle phases. So you need to switch off the machine for cleaning, but also for maintenance, and also in order to do diagnosis. So this is, if you want to put a metadata item on a common action, this is the place to go. Okay, so these are the functional metadata. And let's come to the next exercise. This is again a topic from the IRDS sample content, which has a usual table with error codes, causes and remedies. And question is, which functional metadata would you assign to this topic so that people are more can find it more easily? Let's again copy the URL to the chat. And I will keep the slide open so you can have a look at the topic. So most of you voted for product lifecycle phase fault and spare part, and that's correct. Just go back. Did we have, and the event, exactly. Because the event class is where you store the error code, and it's a spare part because you replace some parts like the rotor and the gearbox, and we do have a separate class for fault. So completely correct. Thank you. It's not a supply for the 3 people who answered supply here, because just a second, the supply was, oh, lubricant. We are not talking about lubricants here. We are just talking about spare parts. The lubricant would be oil or cleaning fluid or stuff like that. Okay. And as you can see in the semantic network, this is gets a bit more crowded in the network. If you actually put all this information in, we have our topic, which belongs to specific document types, and describes a spare part and a specific event and belongs to a product lifecycle phase. In this case, the colleagues modeled it like it can also belong to 2 product lifecycle phases like repair and fault. So this is also possible. Okay, you are almost there. We still have the administrative metadata to go, and the administrative metadata is what you use in order to describe where the content is coming from, so meaning which party wrote it, and which identity the content has, and which status the content has. So the interesting thing here about both identity and party is that identities and parties can not only be assigned to information units, meaning fragments and topics or documents, but also to product variants and components. And this comes in handy when you have product variants or components in your metadata. And you want to say, oh, by the way, in the spare part catalog, this component has this identity. So a component can have several identities, and also an information unit can have several identities. This is possible in IRDS because there may be different systems that actually deal with an object. A spare part may be part of your bill of material because it's a component of your product, but it may also be a spare part in your spare part system. And the same applies to a topic. It's a module in your component content management system, but it also represented by an HTML file in your content delivery portal. And in order to express that, IRDS has the possibility to assign several identities and also several parties to components and content. And the content lifecycle status is very simple, status like released or approved, so that you can indicate whether this content is still valid. Okay, you've made it. That was the introduction into the metadata of IRDS, and I would now like to talk about how to actually use this vocabulary and the standard in practice.